Where'd this come from?
Oh, the podcast. I made it and distributed it.
Where?
Everywhere. Apple Music, Spotify. It's out there.
You've been playing with it?
Yeah, a lot.
You know how?
I think I've got the hang of it. Come over and have a look and see what you think.
Wait a minute, you need to.
Do you think? Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's have a guest co-host on this episode.
I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, let's go. I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn, let's go. I'ma make it burn, I'ma make it burn.
You are now listening to the You Run podcast, the only horror movie review podcast completely run and controlled by you, the listeners. You choose the movies, you score the movies, heck, you even review the movies. This is not my podcast.
You Run Podcast.
I've had to listen to every other episode.
You Run Podcast.
You fell asleep for a section.
I fell asleep for a minute. Next one.
This is going to be a fucking riot.
That's right, it is a riot, and it's going to be out of control, out of my control. You run the show. All you need to do is go to our website, yourunpodcast.com.
Just make sure you fucking listen, okay?
You want to die tonight?
I'ma make it burn.
Hello, and welcome to the You Run podcast. My name is Scott, and I'm your host, and each week I take you through the movies you have chosen for me to review. If you're a new listener to the show, welcome. I'm going to give you a bit of a rundown on how the show works. So I say you run the show. You get to pick the movies. So every Friday on our Instagram, it's at You Run Podcast. We start a movie poll. It's a knockout poll with a list of movies for a show that's upcoming. It's really simple. You vote on the movie that you want to win. And if that movie wins, that's the movie that gets reviewed on the show. We've had a really, really nice Christmas and New Year. It's been nice, fluffy movies, back-to-back Gremlins movies that were very chaotic, very disorganized, very messy family arguments across 2 episodes. They're really fun movies. They're really chilled. They're really relaxed. So I'm pleased to welcome you to I'm Terrified Week. This episode is not going to be fun and fluffy. It's still going to be fun, but it's definitely not going to be fluffy and chilled and laughy jokey, because this week you chose the 1973 movie The Exorcist to get reviewed. Now, The Exorcist tells the story of a mother who enlists the help of 2 priests to help her demonically possessed daughter. Now, I'm only one man, and this movie calls for 2 priests. So to stick with the movie, this episode calls for 2 hosts. So I guess I'm the old priest. Let's introduce the young priest. Mr. MW Horror Reviews himself. Marc is back. Right, man?
All right, mate, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How was your Christmas?
It was lovely. It was lovely. It's nice to have a break from work, spend some time with the family. You know, it's nice. It's nice. How about yourself?
Yeah, it was really good. Really relaxed. I'd done no recording over Christmas. It was a nice, chilled, relaxed break. I'm glad to be back doing a, dare I say, a proper horror movie.
Yeah. It's a great film. It's a very surprising film for me as well, which I'm sure we'll dive into later on.
Oh, we definitely will. I mean, Gremlins and Gremlins 2 were lovely, but they're not really horror. They are horror, but they're not really. They're not horror.
No, I was conflicted myself as well, because I was going to do Gremlins for a Christmas review, and then I don't know. I thought about it. Obviously, watched it over the holiday season, and I thought, I just don't think I can justify it enough, especially in comparison to what I have on my page. It just feels very out of place.
Yeah, see, I've got the luxury of I just put it out there and let everyone else decide. So if all of the listeners decide it's a horror movie, it's a horror movie.
Yeah, well, when I did do my Christmas poll and I asked for suggestions, it was surprisingly probably one of the most requested ones to do. But I don't know, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it when I watched it.
You ready for this year? Ready for 2022?
I don't think anybody can be prepared for what's to come now, can they? With everything that's going on in the world, how could you possibly prepare yourself for what's to come?
Well, forget everything else that's going on in the world, because that's all the shit that's in day-to-day life. I don't want to talk about that now. What I want to talk about is movies that are coming next year.
Yes.
So we've got Scream 5, Halloween Ends, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a prequel to Orphan First Kill, Hellraiser, Evil Dead Rise, and then I know one that you are desperately excited to see, Hocus Pocus 2.
I am dying. I think that's definitely my most anticipated of the year.
What,
Not gonna lie.
more than Halloween Ends?
Yeah. Do you know what, right? I love the Halloween franchise. I'm very excited for Halloween Ends. I just don't know if I have enough faith in them to round it off properly. And everything that's coming this year for horror fans is incredible. Like Focus Focus 2, the Orphan prequel for one. I'm so curious how they're going to handle that, with it being a prequel and how old she is now. Whether it's going to be de-aging digitally with CGI or whether they're going to use makeup to do it. It's really piqued my curiosity. That and Scream, I think Scream is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I've got high hopes for Scream. There's a movie that I've tipped it on my Instagram already, but I'm gonna say it on the show now. There's a movie that is coming next year. It's due out in the fall, so October time. I'm tipping this movie as horror movie of the year, and that is a movie called Dark Harvest.
Yeah, we've spoken about this privately, and you messaged me and you said it was a novel. Is that right? A book?
Yeah, so it was a novel by Norman Partridge. It's about a character called October Boy. He's effectively like a best way to describe him. He's a scarecrow. He's a pumpkin-headed scarecrow, but he's a slasher. This is going to be a slasher movie.
Already pumpkin. Was it October Boy?
Yeah,
Doesn't sound very creative.
it doesn't, but he's a slasher, and we've not had a new slasher for I can't remember. When was the last new slasher we had? Exactly.
Yeah. I think Mike Flanagan's Hush you could probably consider as probably one of the most modern slashers we've had, really.
Yeah, but he didn't create a character as like a Michael Myers or a Freddy or a Jason. I mean, this is going to be a proper character, and I've got high hopes because it's in the hands of David Slade, who directed Hard Candy, 30 Days of Night. He's done loads of Black Mirror episodes, and he directed the first 8 or 9 episodes of Hannibal.
I fucking love that show.
So I think that could potentially be, if the CGI and the budget and everything matches what is already involved in it, that could be a real surprise. A little bit like Last Night in Soho was this year.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Last Night in Soho.
Have you not?
No, it's on my list as well. I never had the time to catch it in the cinema, so I'm still waiting for digital. Hopefully, in the next coming weeks, we should see it.
Yeah, you definitely need to. But that's my tip for this coming year.
So has that got any? Is that a collection of novels, or is it just one particular book?
It's a one-off.
So do you know any details regarding? Is it being split into a trilogy, or
no? It's going to be a one-off.
A one-off. So there's not going to be a continuation or anything. Well, it depends on how much money it makes.
Exactly. Let's be honest. It's Hollywood. If there's one book, there's going to be one movie. If that movie makes $240 million, I'm pretty sure there'll be a sequel or multiple sequels. But yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for that. But that's all later this year. The Here and Now is taking us to 1973 and The Exorcist. So, wow, here's the trailer.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world. The world of darkness. Nobody expected it.
All right, let's see what
Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it.
There are no experts. You probably know as much about possession as most priests. Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter. Now, I want you to tell me that you know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with my daughter except in her mind. You tell me you know for a fact that an exorcism wouldn't do any good. You tell me that!
hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
That was the trailer for The Exorcist. The trailer is a perfect example of what a trailer should be. It shows you snippets and hints. But this trailer has got zero spoilers, and it done something that I love when a trailer does. It did not prepare the audience for what they were walking into. Have you seen the trailer for this?
I haven't. No, I haven't seen the trailer for this.
The trailer is flashes of the mother being very distraught, flashes of Reagan very upset. You don't see her in makeup. Flashes of the two priests, and then the Exorcist. There is absolutely no prep. If you watched that trailer and walked into the cinema, you would be like, "Oh my God, this is not what was advertised."
And that is exactly how trailers should be.
Yeah.
So many films this day and age just get absolutely destroyed. Like, why is a trailer 3 minutes long?
Yeah, you're distinctly talking about Halloween Kills trailers there.
I am distinctly talking about Halloween Kills. Just the last two Halloween films we've had basically gives away pretty much everything in that film.
Yeah,
royally.
It didn't give away the John Wick gun kill though. That was saved for the movie.
Yeah, I'm so glad it was. That was epic.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about The Exorcist. So my initial thoughts on The Exorcist. The Exorcist is widely considered the best exorcism movie ever made. And it's normally in contention and argument for the best horror movie ever made. In my opinion, this delivers very, very high on shock and surprise. Strong religious and demonic undertones live throughout the movie, which I really, really like. It makes you think a lot about what's causing everything. And not many movies do that. But I feel that time for this movie has kind of passed it by. Visually, it no longer gives the smash in the face that it did in the 70s. If you'd seen this in the 70s with everything else around, this would have scared the living shit out of you. Now the visuals aren't as good. You can see that it's not as great as it was. I found sections of the movie a little bit drawn out as well. I think that's my initial thoughts on it. What did you think of this?
Well, I have to completely disagree with you. I think this film is a genuine masterpiece, and it's a perfect example of one of those films where 90% of the people, I say that this is just a theory in my own head because I'm relating to what I did, would say they have seen The Exorcist. You could turn around to them and say, "Have you seen The Exorcist?" And they would tell you yes, and then you could plonk them down in front of the telly for a 2 hour and 15-minute film, and they would have no idea what plays out in front of them. I could have sworn I have seen The Exorcist until I went blue in the face. It wasn't until I sat down and watched it for this film. I was like, shit, I have never seen this film. You know, you see it so heavily referenced in social media and in pop culture and films such as Scary Movie and all the rest of it. Your brain automatically just assumes you'd seen it. So for me, I was like, I saw it when I was younger. I don't think I'd ever seen this film before up until now. And I was genuinely blown away. I thought it was amazing. I mean, obviously, I've seen The Exorcist itself, the sections with the actual exorcism and stuff. I've seen that plenty of times before. You can't really unavoid seeing things like that on the internet and stuff these days. But all the build-up and everything to that point, I don't think I've ever seen. Unless I have and I just cannot remember it. But for me, it felt like a first time watching this. And I was literally glued to the screen the whole time. It was when I thought it was phenomenal. Genuinely amazing storytelling from start to finish.
Yeah, and to be fair, the listeners agree with you. So the listeners' scores for this, they scored it a 9 out of 10 for the movie. And for Fear, they scored it an 8 out of 10, which is kind of the scores I expected. They're very, very high. And a movie of this caliber and this, should we call it this pedigree, deserves scores that high. I don't necessarily agree with it, but before I lose all my listeners, I think we'll get into the movie and I'll explain why, as opposed to me just going, I don't like it as much as a 9. I think we'll go through it and I'll explain bits that I like and bits that I don't like, because don't get me wrong, this is a fucking great movie. It's not a 10 for me. Let's get into the movie.
In the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, by this sign of the Holy Cross, of our Lord Jesus Christ. Damien!
Okay, so the movie starts, it opens in Iraq, and you've got Father Merrin conducting an archaeological dig. He's doing a dig. I love this. This opening scene is nothing happens. He's digging a hole. He finds some artifacts, but the music and the foreboding, how he's finding these artifacts that are, you can tell they're evil, that he finds a little head and instantly you go, that's evil, because they don't even say it. They just, because the way it's presented to you. And then when he's walking back through the town, he nearly gets hit by a horse and cart, and you're like, that's because he's got the evil artifact in his pocket. You tie it all together all on your own. And then when he's in the what is it? Is it? I don't know if it's a museum or he's in the building with the other guy, and the clock stops.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on in that moment, isn't there? Because obviously you have all these beautiful horizon shots intertwining with all that desert scene at the beginning. For me, it was very. Have you seen Constantine? You have, haven't
Yes.
you? Obviously.
Yeah.
That opens in a very, very similar way, and obviously it wasn't until watching this that I drew the comparisons, and clearly that has obviously taken a lot of inspiration from this film, because they do a very similar thing where he finds the dagger of some whatever in the desert, and it feels very much. And when I was watching this, I was like, oh, it's just like what they do in Constantine, kind of thing.
Yeah.
This many years before, obviously.
Yeah, and I love the way they do it as well, because it's really subtle, but it's. Yeah. I say it's really subtle, but they smack you in the face with it in a really subtle way.
It just piques your curiosity straight away, because you're so curious as to what is happening, what is he digging for, what is going on, and you're just glued to the screen. And even though there isn't actually much going on, you're looking for little signs of what he's there for and why he's there and what he's doing.
Yeah, and it ends with that scene where he goes back to the dig site and they've uncovered a statue, and he kind of has a face-off with the statue. It's never said in the movie, and I don't know whether it is in the book, but I made the assumption that is the statue of Pazuzu.
I would have said so as well, and something we'll get into later on when we get to the exorcism section. It does come back into play later on briefly, which we'll probably touch upon later on. But there was a lot of confusion for me within this first section, because you see, what's the name of this father? Who is he?
Father Merrin.
Right. So you see him in the restaurant, and he's asked for the pills, and he's very shaky. And at this point, I was like, "Whoa, he's found the little statue in the cave. So he must be possessed. He must be the one who's uncovered it. So he must be the one that then passes this on to Reagan later on. And this is how it all starts. Something that doesn't actually quite come into fruition like that.
No, it doesn't. It's not like that at all. And you kind of. So after we've had this wonderful desert shots and opening scenes and rolling sunsets, we then jump to a busy US home where we meet a successful actress, Chris McNeil, and her 12-year-old daughter, Reagan, who live with their staff in a home in Georgetown in DC. It starts with noises in the loft, which when this movie done it, that was new. Now that is not new. Every horror, possession, demonic, any movie that has a ghost of any description or a demon, it starts with noises in the loft.
Yeah.
But this one, it was the first one. So you get the noises, and then you see this very, very happy, very bubbly Reagan. And over the course of even this first kind of opening scene, you see her personality begin to change, where she's a little bit more depressed and a little bit anxious. And then you get the scene where she ends up in bed with her mum because her bed was shaking.
Yeah, and I was just so surprised at this point at how young she is. How old is Linda Blair in this film?
She was 14 when she filmed it, but she's playing a 12-year-old.
She holds this whole film up on her own, and it is incredible. Like, I just couldn't believe how young she looked. Like, I just always assumed she was playing, like, not playing, but I always assumed she was an older sort of actor. But 14 years old to go on and be such a pivotal point in such an iconic film is incredible. She does such a fantastic job in this.
Yeah, I've got kids of the same age, and they can't even tidy their room, let alone deliver an Oscar-worthy performance.
You won't want them at the back end of a donkey and nativity.
Exactly. But these kind of opening scenes, these are introduction scenes. So you meet Father Merrin, you meet Chris McNeil, and you meet Reagan, and then you meet the other pivotal character, which is Father Karras. He's a priest who's struggling with his faith, and he's also trying to look after his mum, who lives in. How would you describe the area where his mum lives?
It's very sort of like a shanty town kind of thing, isn't it? It's very like sort of shack ridden.
That's
very it's like one of the, it's like a complex apartment sort of.
Yeah, it's a very polite way of saying it's a shithole, Mark.
Yeah, that's the subtle approach I was trying to take. It's the kind of place where the landlord's banging on your door for rent every couple of days.
Yeah, it's not a nice area, and it is. His poor old mum lives here, and you can see he does a very good job of delivering a man who you can see it in his face. He does not believe that God exists anymore, but God would not let this shit happen.
No, he's such a relatable character for me as well. Like I felt everything he was feeling as he was going along this. I mean, I'm not a religious man. Sorry to anybody listening who is of faith. Your own type, your own opinions. You are a bit crazy. I'm not a religious man in the slightest. Like for me, religion is the root of all evil in war and everything else that comes with it. I think it's insane that people still believe that in such a modern era. But
hot takes.
Sorry about that.
I'll put a bit of context and a bit of balance to this. So I am not a religious man. I don't necessarily believe. I don't necessarily not believe either. But I was born and raised a Catholic. So I've done my confirmation. I am a confirmed Catholic. I used to go to church every single week. So I look at this movie I looked at this movie from a very religious standpoint. So
right, that's good. That's interesting because you see, to me, not being religious, I never had that. I never had that angle about it.
So I think we've looked at this differently, which might explain how we've seen it differently as we go through as well.
Yeah.
After we meet Father Karras, we get probably what I would say is the only throwaway scene where it's so blasé, but it's such an important, pivotal part of the movie. And this is where the mum is looking at some of the sculptures that Regan's done, the clay sculptures. And then the mum spots a Ouija board. And she's like, "Oh, have you been playing with this?" And Regan's like, "Oh, yeah, I play with that all the time."
Yeah, and this is where we're introduced to Captain Howdy.
Yeehaw!
yeah. And the Ouija board moves.
Yeah.
So my question to you is this the point of possession?
I don't know. So the way in Catholic belief, or in most beliefs, the way possession starts is communication, then oppression, where they start to influence your behavior, which would explain why she's already exhibiting signs of anxiety and depression. And then when you're at the lowest point, that's when the possession will happen.
I would never have known any of that, you see, to me, not being from a religious background. So I would.
So the way it's deemed in religion is a demon or a demon will come into your life in a very, very happy way and then start to influence your behavior. And then your behavior going in a negative way will allow them more access into you to the point where they can then possess you.
Which would make this very realistic then in terms of plot, really. The way that he comes in as Captain Howdy and he's all friendly playing on a Ouija board and luring her in for false pretenses.
100%.
Right.
100%.
That only just makes it more impressive for me then.
We nip from here and we get another quick throwaway scene at the church where someone has vandalized a statue of the Virgin Mary, and there's a pair of clay tits and a clay penis stuck to the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Did you put Regan as the culprit for that at this point?
No, because I didn't know the location of this. There was no explanation as to where this was, how far away this was from Regan's house, whether this was Regan's church or anything like that. Is it Regan or Regan?
I call her Regan. She might be Regan. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get loads of messages that are going to spell it for me phonetically.
Yeah, we'll stick with Regan. It seems easier to say. So
Yeah.
so there's no sort of implication as to where this location is for this church. We just get a cutaway shot. We see the church. We see the priest walking through with the flowers. He puts them down. He looks up and he sees it, and then we cut away immediately after. It never comes back in again.
No,
we never know any explanation as to why that happened, when it happened, and
it
who
is mentioned much later in the movie.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. It's mentioned much later, but we'll get to that when we get there. So after we get this throwaway scene, we get a little bit more of a kick in the teeth for Father Karras. So as if he's not having enough of a rough time, his mum falls ill and ends up in what can only be described as the asylum from American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Minus Sister Jude, that place is a shithole. It's awful.
Yeah. And it's at this point you really start to see Father Damien's faith sort of slip. You know, he's in bits. He can't understand why she is in this situation, and he clearly blames, or does he blame God for it? He's sort of thinking, if this is happening to me and all my dedication to everything, why?
Yeah, I got a feeling that he did blame God, and it was almost straight after this that his mum dies. There's no drawn out scene here. She goes in, you get that one scene, and then it's like a throwaway comment later that his mum's passed away.
Yeah, I think he's mentioned at the party, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to get to that because I was about to say it's not all shit for everyone, because Mrs. McNeil's throwing a huge party at her house. That party's dire.
Yeah, and it's that scene around the piano, which immediately I was like, oh, scary movie too. He walks down and pisses on the floor, and it's like that immediately for me just sort of zoned me out straight away. I was like, fuck, right. Because I do this when I'm watching films like I Know What You Did Last Summer and some of the Scream films as well. Like you watch those and God, man, Scary Movie ruined a lot of films for a lot of people.
Yeah, if you've not seen any of the horror movies that it spoofs, if you then go and watch them, you instantly see Scary Movie. And all the spoofs they do are really good and they're really accurate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they clearly put a lot of work into it. But fucking hell, mate. That ruined a lot of films for a lot of people.
Be silent!
But there's a fairly important bit that before Regan, before she comes down and pisses all over the floor. It's kind of really important, but they don't make a big deal of it. And they do this a lot in this movie. Things that are really important and pivotal to the story. They don't make a big, it's like in The Conjuring, if there's a big pivotal point to the story, you get bells and whistles and almost like fucking arrows pointing in from the side of the screen going, this is important.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, that's why I think I appreciate this film more, because it is a case of, I have so many questions to ask you as we run through this. And it's like, if we was watching a film from today, it's literally spelled out for you as you go.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with all films, but I don't want to sound old, but they just don't make them like they used to.
But the important scene is she asks another priest. There's a lot of priests in this area, but she asks Father Dyer about Karras because she keeps seeing him effectively lurking around the neighborhood, and she says he's a bit creepy. Dyer basically turns around and goes, no, he's my friend, he's cool. And here we also meet her director of her movie, Burke, who is absolutely steaming and gets carried out the door.
Absolute tosser this guy is, by the way. What a tosser.
Yeah, he is.
The way he's goading that poor German waiter, man, and I'm like, you prick, and he's just proper going at him with the Nazi stuff, and I'm like, why? And he's clearly doing it just for a reaction as well, because when it does blow up, he just sits back and laughs and thinks, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, he sits back and laughs and knows that everyone's going to defend him.
Yeah, and it's like, we'll move on from him because he's a knob.
Yeah, but he quickly gets removed from the party and they help him out and he leaves. So after he's left, that's when we get Regan comes down the stairs, proceeds to walk into the, should we call it the piano room?
Yeah, I wish I had a piano room.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I don't want a piano in it, but yeah, it'd be nice to have the room. But she walks in, she pisses all over the floor, and then proceeds to tell them, "You're all going to die up there."
Yeah, this was like the first point where it wasn't really, because we see a little bit of a behavioural change before the whole party situation. We do see her make the first visit to the doctor's hospital, don't we?
Yes.
That's the first time, and we're first introduced to her doctor. we don't get a lot of details. We don't get a lot of depth or insight into the situation, but it is the first time, which is why I'm circling back to it, because I don't want to miss it. It's the first time we see the flash on screen of Pazuzu. I've been trying as I was watching through. I think I may have missed some, but I've noted every single one. So we'll try and keep count as we work our way through this and how many I get to at the end. I've actually tried to Google it and find out how many there is, but I couldn't come up with a correct answer. So if anyone's listening who knows the actual answer, please message and let us know.
Yeah, and the thing is, these flashes, they are literally, if you blinked, you would miss it.
Yeah. Now I was watching this on my tablet, laid in bed quite close. And when I did, I think I would do quite well to pick them out, because when the flash happened, it was very obvious. But the first one happens at the doctor's office, and you think at this point she's a very pleasant little girl. She's being all nice and sweet, and then you start to see her kicking off because she doesn't want it. She's saying, "I don't want it, I don't want it," and you see her get quite aggressive. Not quite as aggressive as she does later on, but it's these first little moments where you start to see it. And at that instant, you do see Pazuzu flash in on the screen, and that was the first one that I've seen so far. Now I did know every one as we go, but that's the first one.
That's the first one. And obviously, after she'd done this, her mum puts her up to bed. She gives her a bath and puts her in bed. Shortly after that, you get the most awful screaming coming in. The mum opens the bedroom door, and the bed is, well, it's bouncing around all over the place, and she's starting to levitate. And the mum throws herself on the bed to stop her floating away, effectively. And this is where we get. This is where mummy goes and calls the quacks, and you get the real doctor intervention. I love this part of the movie. This, I would say, based on how a possession is meant to work, the more traumatized and the more disturbed you are, the easier it is for that demon or entity to take over your soul. This barrage of tests she's gone through will have just made it easier for Pazuzu to take a stronger grip.
Of course, because all they're doing is just draining her by torturing her with these tests. And I mean, did you see how old that CT scan machine was?
Yeah.
It's fucking terrifying. You would not get me going in there.
Well, that was just what they had in the 70s.
Yeah, fuck that, man. That looks like something from a scrapyard. You wouldn't catch me going underneath there.
Thing is, you say that in 30, 40 years' time, someone's going to be watching a movie like The Conjuring, and they were going, "Fucking hell, did you see that?" Or would we go anywhere near that?
Yeah. Well, just briefly though, before we move on, before we do get to the doctor's scene, we do have the dream sequence of Damien, who is dreaming of his mother coming up from the subway station. That then we do see the second image of Pazuzu flash up in the dream sequence, because that had me write down in my notes, is Damien connected to Pazuzu in some reason? Like, why is he flashing up in that dream sequence?
If you read things online, there are so many deep back plots, and everyone's got different theories about how it's all tied together.
Yeah.
And I've not read the books. I've not read the source material, so I can't tell you what the writer's intention was.
No.
I think what they're trying to show is that Pazuzu as a demon is linked to the church.
Yeah, but you see, obviously, because I knew the actual, as I said, I'd assumed I'd seen this film before, so I knew the final outcome. So I just assumed at this point on, when I saw this flash up in the dream sequence, that Pazuzu sort of knew how it was going to pan out. He knew that he would have this connection to Father Damien. Therefore, he was already slightly influential in his dreams. I might be wrong. I might just be spitballing, but this is just what I interpreted it from that scene.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible that there's also the strong belief that you can't have good without evil, and wherever there is good, there will be evil.
Right.
So, if you want to go really deep into it, do all priests carry a demon with them?
Yeah, that's very, very thought-provoking. No, don't want to get into a conversation about Catholic priests and demons, but we'll.
Yeah, we will step away from that. We will put our hands up and slowly retreat from Catholic priests and struggling with their demons.
Yeah, I'd like to keep my account up and running if it's all the same.
Exactly.
Stick your cock up her ass, you motherfucking worthless cocksucker.
So she goes through the barrage of tests, and they're all fucking horrific. I mean, the guy who uses the needle in her neck to take blood, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was so weird, wasn't it?
He just like sticks it in her neck, and then there's blood spurting out everywhere. And he's like, no, we'll just fiddle around over here, and a bit more blood. Oh, never mind. It's like, fucking really. But after the barrows of tests, and all of the doctors come back and go, well, there's nothing. We suggest a psychiatrist. And the mum, give her a due, goes, no, she's not crazy. There is something seriously wrong. And I love the fact that it's the doctors that actually suggest she may be demonically possessed.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well, actually, because we started off by trying to convince her that the shake in bed was due to muscle spasms. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like we've exhausted all possible options.
She's possessed.
Yeah, ring the church.
Which I wasn't alive in the 70s. Maybe that's how it was.
I wouldn't know either. I'm way too young for that.
Yeah, we don't know. Give the church a call. They'll sort it out. Don't worry. From here, things escalate fairly quickly. So all of this up until this point is very much a build until where Regan is actually possessed. And I think from this point on, this is where we get Exorcist. From this point onwards, this is the Exorcist that everyone remembers.
The one that I assumed I had seen. Because everything from this point on, I assumed I knew. Yeah,
so this is where we get the mum. Chris has gone out to work. She returns home and finds that the nanny is coming in at the same time. And she's like, well, who's looking after Regan? What are you doing? She gives her a bollocking. And she's gone, it's fine, because Burke popped round earlier and Burke said he'd watch her. One, would you let Burke watch your children?
Which one was Burke?
He's the director.
Yeah, no, what a fuck. I wrote that down. I was like, who's Burke? And I was convinced that he was the German.
No. But Burke was the director. So the director popped round and the nanny went out and left Burke to look after Regan.
Yeah, so I wrote down, I was like, oh, he's Burke, the butler, but then he popped up later on again. So my question was going to be to you, who is Burke?
Yeah, but Burke was the director. So the mum has a panic, runs up the stairs, open the door. There's no Burke. Regan's there, but there's no Burke. And then you get this I thought was really lazy. You get a knock at the door. By the way, Burke's dead on your steps outside.
Was this by Inspector Poirot?
Yeah.
Right. Now, I have some questions about this. So I'll let you run through it, and then I will come back to what I missed or what I didn't miss or whether I got it right or wrong. But I was a bit confused from this point on. There was something that happened in this scene that confused me, and I'm unsure whether it was right or wrong. Yeah, so Burke goes out the window, or we've assumed that Regan, at this point, we've all twigged now Regan's possessed and Regan threw him out the window. So he gets a knock on the door and he basically says Burke is dead. And then from there, it goes to when he returns the following day. Yes. I've written down in my notes, this was pointless and achieved nothing. So if someone's died in your house, the policeman's coming to have a look around. This policeman done absolutely none of that. He didn't go upstairs. He literally stayed in the kitchen and drank tea. This is where my head sort of went a little bit confused with it, because he picked up something from the outside, out the leaves. Now, I just automatically assumed that this was the statue that the father had discovered in the Iraq desert. Right, so that's wrong. Yeah, you can't see this, but Scott's shaking his head at me. So Scott is shaking his head, which makes me assume that is wrong, which then brings me on to my next theory, which is that he found the statue of the tortoise that Regan had made that was on the windowsill in the bedroom. Yes. He then placed in the kitchen and said, oh, this is nice. Who made this? To try and trick the mother into saying that Regan had made it. Yes, so but basically, that's the only thing this detective done well. I'm assuming he's a detective. He worked out very, very quickly that Regan was the one who done the vandalism at the church. Right. So then how did that come back into this then? How did the vandalism section come back in? Because I must have missed that. I think I was so confused by the whole... It doesn't come back in here. It comes in later when the detective goes to see Karras. So here, all you see is him looking at the clay, and you see him... You kind of get this where you can see he's processing things. Right. Because he doesn't go and talk to Regan, and he says he's not going to. He'll come back at another time, but he wants an autograph off the mum. So I don't know if he was just a bit of a fanboy. I think he was just fanboying at that point. But he's a very smooth operator. If that whole thing that he did was very calculated, I thought that was handled well.
Yeah, I think at this point he's twigged that something's up with Regan. I think he thinks she done the
murder.
Yeah. No, not the murder. I think he thinks she done the vandalism at the church.
But he soon put together that she had also pushed Burke out the window.
Yeah. I think he's starting to piece it all together, but treading very delicately because he knows if he goes too hard, the mum's going to get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah. So although you're saying it doesn't bear any relevance, for me, seeing all those come together the way it should have done. See, at this point, obviously, the reason I'm asking about the statue from the beginning is because I'm still trying to link the beginning to how she becomes possessed. Which is clearly at this point now you've just answered that question, is never answered.
No, it's not. I don't think it is. Maybe it is and I missed it, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
Right.
We now go into full fucking blown crazy. We get probably one of the most disturbing scenes I've ever seen on screen. And for a 14-year-old girl to act this out, the crucifix scene is just horrific.
Fuck me! Fuck me!
Yeah, I didn't like this at all.
No, I didn't. I really didn't.
It wasn't even what she was doing. It was the point when she grabbed her mother's head that I was like, no, I'm out.
Yeah, that scene, it is horrific, and it still holds up as horrific today.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, this is what, 1974? Is it 74, 73?
Yeah.
And it's some of the practical effect work in this is fucking phenomenal, man.
But do you know, it's funny you say that because the next thing I'm going to say is then they do the head 180, and I thought that looked really bad.
I can't believe you would think that. I literally sat there and watched this and I thought, wow, that looks better than the last 4 or 5 films I've just reviewed on my page.
Yeah, I thought the head 180 looked terrible.
I mean, you can clearly tell it's puppetry.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you know me, I like B-movie shit. I like crappy practical effects. So it was kind of right on my street when I saw it.
I wouldn't by any means say this is a bad practical effect, but it's dated. When this
came out, it was fucking terrifying to watch.
Oh, 100%. And then she gives the best line, I think, in the whole movie. Do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter. And then the mum ties it all together.
Yeah. And what did she tie together? Because I might have missed it. What did she do?
So this is where the mum realizes that Regan threw Burke out the window.
Right. Okay, I'm with you now. That would make more sense.
This is where it all starts making sense to Mummy. And Mummy does what any good mummy would do. She goes to the church. She goes to see Father Karras.
And then this is when she speaks to Father Karras, and Father Karras is basically explaining to her, without explaining to her, that religion is a load of bullshit and that exorcisms are outdated, and clearly science has taken forth since then, since the discovery of mental health issues. So
yeah,
he's just basically just shunning his own faith as he goes along, this guy.
Yeah, and again, I really like that. I've got to think, I love when they portray someone who's meant to be a bearer of faith, who spends most of their time kicking the life out of it.
Yeah,
I quite like that. I think that's it's a really provocative narrative to take, and it pisses a lot of people off. There are a lot of people who believe in God and are incredibly religious. I get messages from them on almost a daily basis telling me I'm going to hell.
Do you remember that guy who both blocked us on Instagram because what did we do? Oh, can you remember that dude who came at us?
Oh yeah. I can't remember what we done, but we were going to hell.
Yeah, we were going to hell, and he cursed our souls and blocked us all and everything. And oh God, what was we talking about? I think we was talking about something like The Conjuring or something like that.
Yeah. The thing is, though, shortly after that, we reviewed Sharknado, so maybe his curse was real.
Yeah. Yeah, things have gone a little bit slightly downhill since then, haven't they? So
yeah. But the mum convinces Karras to come to the house and to basically look at Regan and make his own mind up. And this is where Regan, or the demon, if you want to call it Pazuzu now, effectively plays party tricks. So we get multiple languages, we get a moving drawer, claims Karras's mother is in there with her too.
Your mother's in here with us, Karras. Would you like to leave a message?
And this bit I loved, where Karras challenges and goes, "What is my mother's maiden name?" And she doesn't know.
To tell him.
Refuses to tell him, and then throws up on him.
Yeah, you see, the thing is as well, they do this quite a lot throughout this. There's something that comes in later on, and I'm sure we'll touch point when we get to it. But they do kind of like leave it open to suggestion all the way through. They never ever give you anything compelling to sort of say, well, she knew that. How would she possibly know that?
Yeah.
I mean, she does things that are obviously unexplainable, like the point where later on where Father Karras plays the tape backwards and she's clearly speaking English, but in reverse. I mean, obviously nobody can physically do that off the bat like she does. And especially for a 12-year-old girl to do that is insane. But there's subtle things along the way that lead you to think, is this real or is this not? And this is one of those.
Yeah. And again, this is brilliant because straight after that, Karras isn't convinced she's possessed, and he he decides to go for a run to clear his head.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the vandalism at the church reference. So this is where fanboy cop is sat waiting for him to finish his run.
Yeah.
And he talks to Karras and he talks about the vandalism at the church, and he thinks it's got something to do with Burke's death. And this is where he's trying to tie everything together. He also explains that the way that Burke's neck snapped is not possible from the fall from the window. His head was spun 180.
Even from the fractures to his skull, there's no way the impact of the fall could have caused that sort of
No. So
damage.
if you now go back, so his head had spun 180.
Yeah.
When Regan turns around and says, "Do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter?" Her head is spun 180.
I never even put that together. You see, you were slating this film at the beginning. Obviously, you were slating it, but you weren't praising it as high as you should have done. Stuff like this, as we go, is only amplifying my enjoyment of it. I can't wait to go back and watch this again.
So see, don't get me wrong. I really, really enjoy this, and I'm about to. So we're not far away from when I'm going to start going from this is brilliant, I love this, and I'm going to start pulling it apart, and I'm going to start losing listeners and followers. But we'll get there in a minute. So fanboy cop convinces Karras to go back. So he returns and he brings a recorder and he records her speaking. She's speaking in what I assumed at the time was tongues, and he splashes her with holy water and she writhes in pain. This bit I was like, oh my God, she's actually possessed. She's actually possessed. And then he proceeds to tell the mum that she's not possessed because it was tap water.
So this is what I was saying earlier about the power of suggestion. Is it real? Is it not? Because it's subtle things like this that crop up repeatedly that make you think she's obviously playing up to it because it's not even holy water, it's just tap water.
Yeah, and they do this little tease here literally for a second because she screams again. They go back in, and any doubt in your mind that she was faking it is gone, as "help me" arises from her skin in the form of a scar.
I thought that was fucking brilliant as well. But at that point, you walk in and the whole room's absolutely like -0 degrees or whatever it is. It's freezing. You can clearly see how cold the room is.
They chilled the room to -20 as well.
Did they really?
Yeah.
That must have been so uncomfortable to work in. But before we do move on, because there is one little bit in this that we have just quickly skipped over that I really want to touch upon, and that is the foreshadowing that happens when Father Karras first goes in. It's not when he first goes in, but he's having a conversation with Pazuzu, and he's talking about the exorcism, and Pazuzu kind of encourages it. And Father Karras is like, why would you want this? Why would you want an exorcism? And the foreshadowing in that conversation is because it will bring us together.
Yeah.
And obviously knowing what happens at the end, hearing that, I was like, wow, that was incredible. Do you know, I like these little things scattered throughout this film like that are just so subtly done.
And that line's really good as well. What a wonderful day for an exorcism.
Yes.
And that's just pure class, because this movie does what a lot of movies fail in. The demon is taunting.
Yeah.
The demon is waving it in the priest's face. I am a demon. There's fuck all you can do about it. And now I'm going to taunt you now for a little bit. I might throw up on you. I might make a draw move. And then when you ask me to do so, I'm going to say no.
I cast you out! Unclean spirit!
Shut up, your ass!
In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ! It is he who commands you!
and I like that. It's a very similar mentality to a toddler.
Yeah. Yeah, he's playing with them all.
Yeah. I mean, you could liken, this is a really bad comparison to make, but you could liken a demon to a toddler. They will play up and they will do things, and you will see them do something really entertaining. If you go, can you do that again? What do they say?
So you're asking me, but my daughter's only 16 months old, and I'm dreading the day when she hits toddler age. So I have all this yet to come.
Yeah, the response when you ask them to perform is normally no.
No.
And as soon as you turn your back and you're not looking anymore, they'll do it again. So after they get this scar-like help me rise out of her body, which is a brilliant effect and still holds up today, better than stuff I've seen in modern movies. Karras is then convinced, and he goes to see the bishop, and he basically says, we need to perform an exorcism. The bishop isn't fully on board, but I think he kind of humans him a little bit and says, look, we'll do one, but you can't do it. You can assist. We'll get someone else. And this is where we get Father Merrin's return.
Yeah, OG from the beginning, who I had spent the entire last maybe hour and 40 minutes wondering where the hell he was and what was going on with him.
Yeah, and again, in a modern movie, they wouldn't do that. In a modern movie, they would constantly be flicking back to show you what he's doing.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the way it was handled. I like the way that it was, because I just spent the whole film curious as to, like, I know he plays something pivotal. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And like,
you're going, when's he coming? When's he coming? When's he coming?
It doesn't spell anything out for you, and that is just such a lost art. It really
is. Yeah, it really is. I mean, now movies are. I don't mind in a slasher. I've said this when we done Texas Chainsaw Massacre. On a slasher, I want it spoon fed to me. In a movie like this or a movie like The Conjuring, I don't. I want it to be something that I have to think about. And that's why I hated The Conjuring 2, because The Conjuring 2, they spoon-fed it to me and it annoyed me.
Yeah, it's so catered to the masses these days that it's difficult to ever find something like this again.
Now we get the most iconic, or one of the most iconic scenes in the whole of horror. The light shining out of the window, tubular bells, and the priest walking up with his briefcase and standing under that light. That imagery is iconic.
Yeah.
You could show that movie poster and that just that one clip to probably anyone over the age of 20, and they would tell you what movie it's from.
So immediately when you see that scene, what do you think in your head? What do you hear in your head?
Yeah, tubular bells.
And how often do you hear that in this film?
Twice.
Once, when she is randomly walking home from work, which has no bearing on any impactful situation.
Yeah.
And twice at the very end of the film, for literally 5 seconds before the credit rolls, and it goes, Exorcist.
Yeah.
Other than that, if it wasn't so iconically popularized in pop culture today, you could probably never even consider that a theme to this film.
No. And again, that's all because it was built correct. This movie was built and put together correctly. It was built and made in a very, very clever, very, very good way.
Yeah. I was just so mind blown by it. As I say, you've got to imagine this is a first time viewing experience for me. I expected that to be beat after beat after beat. Every impactful situation, the build up, we're hearing this song. Not at all. Not at all.
And that's a great place, because this is now where the movie doesn't fall apart for me, but this is where it starts to lose. A lot of the hard work they put in up to this point is lost for me. So we've got such a good build up. We've got the old priest in Merrin arriving. You've now got the two priests together, and they're going to go in and do the exorcism.
But God is my helper. The Lord sustains my life.
If you boil this exorcism down, you've got some obscenities, you've got a long tongue, a bit of levitation, some moving objects, and she talks in Karras's mum's voice. That is not the finale that I wanted. It's not the all-powerful demon. I felt that after all of the build-up that went to this scene, I felt this scene was not as good as the build-up to it.
I have to disagree with you completely. I thought it was very, very subtly realistic. I felt with everything that had come before it, it seemed to flow very nicely. Like I wasn't wanting anything dramatic and explosive and the house to fold in on itself and everything else that you would expect from a climactic sort of film like this as it goes along. Probably not the right way to phrase it. And it was done underwhelmingly perfect is how I'm going to sum it up, because had it gone down the route that you would expect it to, with this grand showdown between the vicars and the fathers and Pazuzu. I don't know. All the foreshadowing and all the subtle suggestion of is it real and is it not, all the build-up and everything to it, had we had something so grand and explosive, would have just compromised everything that had come before it for me. So watching this from start to finish, for me, it flowed perfectly, like absolutely perfectly.
Okay,
you really don't agree with me at all.
No, I really don't. But again, movies are all personal choice, and it's what you like and what you don't like. I felt this bit was weak, and this is where just this one exorcism scene is where it loses the full marks for me. Because after you get out of this exorcism scene, it's brilliant again. When you get the bit where she speaks in Karras's mum's voice and Merrin sends Karras out of the room, he's basically get out, and then it goes quiet and Karras comes back in. That bit is brilliant because it's gone back to that very, very subtle, very, very just brilliantly well delivered. And then when Karras comes in and he has that explosion where his faith is completely shattered at this point, and he's now at the point where all he wants to do is get the demon out of this girl, and he effectively beats 10 shades of shit out of her.
There was that scene before that, just after the previous vicar. I can't remember his name for the life.
Merrin.
Father Merrin. He's dead on the floor, on the edge of the bed, and you've got Regan in the corner, like a toddler, literally, like you explained, like a toddler giggling in the corner. And that's when he just snaps and grabs her off the bed and starts beating her on the floor. This as well is where obviously we had the grand sort of exorcism sort of exposure thing. Pazuzu then releases into
Merrin. Not to Merrin, into Karras.
Into Father Karras. And is this CGI wasn't a thing back then, was it?
No,
I'm not that naive.
It was practical effects.
This was fucking incredible. The transition between him being possessed and him not being possessed, and you can see him battling the inner demon, literally battling the inner demon, and you can see his face changing between the two, was fucking incredible, man. Literally, I just couldn't believe it for a film of this age, how well the practical and makeup effects are in this.
Really, really well done. And then Karras obviously dives out of the window to his death. After this is, so he literally hits the deck, and as he hits the deck, Father Dyer from earlier, the one who was pissed playing the piano at the party, rocks up and delivers him the last rites.
I don't know the last rites, so explain to me.
So the last rites is if you're about to die, a priest will deliver you your last rites, which basically absolves you of all sin, so you will cross over into heaven.
Right. So Father Karras is clearly in a bad way, but there is hand gestures. So what does this imply? This theme? What does?
So this implies that basically Pazuzu's obviously got him by Dyer absolving him of all of his sin means Pazuzu cannot keep possession of him because he's now a clean soul. He's now a strong soul again, so Pazuzu has to leave, which in theory allows Karras to cross over into heaven. So we jump for. It doesn't say how far we jump forward, but I think we jump forward at least a week. It's definitely not next day.
I would say a lot further because we see Regan come back in and she's clearly scarred. Her face is clearly scarred when we see her again after this point. The first introduction to her afterwards, she hasn't got open cuts. It's not scabbed over. It's clearly scar tissue on her face. So I would say, I mean, the house is all packed up as well. It's clearly a big house. They're on the move to Europe. I would say this would probably be months afterwards.
Yeah, let's say months. And Father Dyer turns up, knocks on the door to basically check on them and say goodbye because they're leaving. And the mum gives him Karras's medallion that was ripped off in the struggle. And the movie ends with Father Dyer looking longingly down the stairs where Burke and Karras died. And that's the end. That's it, finished.
I was going to ask you the significance of the necklace, actually, because the housemaid had found it in Regan's room. And I was like, where is that come from? And then obviously now you just said that makes more sense.
I think the medallion is a St. Christopher. I could be wrong, but a St. Christopher is something you would give at christening.
Yeah, it's for safe travels.
Yeah, it is a protective symbol. So in the Catholic faith, St. Christopher is a protector. He will guard and protect you. I think I've got a couple of St. Christopher's that were bought for me. I've not worn them for years. Maybe I should put them back on, especially when I score this and everyone comes for me. Maybe I need to be wearing them. Let's find out what the listeners think of this before I give my thoughts on it. And yeah, let's do 3-word reviews. I asked you for them. I think it's time we hear them. It's this week's 3-word reviews from the listeners. So 3-word reviews this week. We've got Frightening as Fuck, which has come from the incredible Josh, who's a movie fan account. We've got Terrifying, Unforgettable Masterpiece by Psychotic Horror, who's a horror account. We've got I'm the Devil. That comes from Fright Swag, who's a horror fan account with style and flavor. I love that. He's got style and flavor on his horror account. I haven't got style and flavor on mine.
I haven't seen style or flavor since I was about 18.
This one made Lisa laugh, so it was Lisa who put this one in. Strong Head Game. And that comes from Stephen Horror, who's a wrestling and movie account. We've got Your Cunting Daughter from Horror Slasher X, who's a horror poster account. And then finally, we've got Classic Possession Film, and that comes from Horror Viking, who is a ghost hunter, a scary storyteller, and former guest on this show, and a wonderful person as well. So that was this week's 3-word reviews. I'm not going to ask you for a 3-word review this time. I tucked you up on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre doing that.
You did, and I thought, shall I do one this time? Because he's probably going to ask me. I thought, no, I'm going to go on strike. He turned around last time and said, well, I don't have to do one because it's my show, so I'm not getting involved either.
And I'm not doing one for this movie either. On to facts. So we've had a fact in from the listener. They've only gone and done it. The listeners have given us a fact. So the listener's fact comes in from Flashback Horror. So the book that inspired this movie was based on a newspaper article of an actual possession and exorcism that was carried out on a 14-year-old boy in Maryland. I'm not going to go into the full depths of that story, but I'm going to ask all of you to go and search Roland Doe exorcism case. Go and read the story on that. There's loads of articles on it. Just find one of the brief rundown articles. What happened to that boy in real life is infinitely worse than this movie. Infinitely worse. I'll give you just one bullet point from it. The exorcism process for that child was 14 months.
See, to me, I'm not a religious person. I don't believe any of this bullshit. So I just put that down to actual child abuse.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm with you. As I said, I've been raised Catholic, but you know me well enough to say that I'm not a practicing Catholic.
I don't know what you get up to behind closed doors, but
yeah. When you're not here, I've got a hood on and a collar. My facts for this movie: Jack Nicholson was up for the part of Karras before it was given to Jason Miller.
I would have hated that. I would have hated any recognisable face in this film.
Thing is, when this movie was made, he wasn't a recognisable face. This could have been the movie that made him a recognisable face.
Well, nobody else really went on to do anything substantial after this, did they?
Oh, this is true. In which case, he could have done this, and it could have ruined Jack Nicholson. So
that's very true. Yeah.
The actor who plays Father Dyer, William O'Malley, is actually a real priest, and who taught at a Jesuit school until 2012. The crucifix, should we call it the crucifix masturbation scene, was heavily toned down for the movie from what it is in the book. So in the book, she breaks her own nose with the top of the crucifix, mutilates her genitals, and orgasms over the priest before the scene ends.
Fucking hell, man. I thought that was graphic enough as well.
So did I, but fuck, yeah, there's no way that you wouldn't even get that in a movie now, not in a million years.
No. I genuinely don't even think you would. I think you would have struggled to have this film made today.
I think you would. I just don't think anyone would do it. The original shooting schedule for this movie was 85 days. It took them 224 days to complete this.
So they well escalated the budget then. They must have had a lot of faith in this doing well. Because the shooting days include more money and more budget, more time, more pay for the actors. Surely.
See, this goes on to my next fact. The studio kept funding it, but the studio would visit on a weekly basis. And studio execs would often walk away from set shaking their head going, what are we doing?
Yet they still continue to plow money into it weekly.
I think maybe it got to the point where they were so deep in they had to finish it.
Yeah.
And the final fact for this is producers originally wanted and approached Jamie Lee Curtis for the role of Regan. And it was almost a done deal until Janet Leigh went, no.
Wow, that would be an interesting what if, wouldn't it, if that happened?
Yeah. Obviously you got the Marvel series What If. I'd love a horror What If.
Yeah, imagine. Can you imagine that? That would be cool.
It would be I think it would have made Jamie Lee Curtis's career very, very different.
I don't think she would have gone on to do Halloween. That's because obviously at this age she'd have been 14, and John Carpenter certainly wouldn't have been able to afford her budget by the time Halloween rocked around.
No, definitely not. Into fuck ups, there's two on this. The first one is in the levitating scene. Wires can be clearly seen holding Regan, and you can really see him when you.
I couldn't, and I checked. I thought because I was looking for these kind of things.
On your rewatch, don't look at her nightie. Look at the ceiling.
Look at the ceiling, right? Okay,
you'll see him on the ceiling. And the other one that I spotted this as well. It's not one I found. I spotted it, and then I went and checked that it was actually a fuck up. When you get the overhead shot of Karras going for his run to get his head straight, that overhead shot for the entire sort of zooming in overhead shot, there is a fly on the camera lens right in the middle.
Didn't notice that either.
No, it looks like a blip on the camera, but when you watch it again, you'll spot it. And that was the fuck ups as well. I'm adding something to this episode, which is Oscars. So before I put you through the quiz, I think a movie of this caliber, it would be unfair for me not to mention its nominations and its wins. So this was nominated for 10 Oscars and won 2. The ones it was nominated for, I mean, the list is like endless. Is editing, art and set direction, cinematography, director, supporting actress, supporting actor, actress, best picture, best sound, best screenplay of from another medium, and it won sound and best screenplay from another medium. There are very, very few horror movies that achieve anywhere near those kind of accolades.
No. I think Silence of the Lambs is probably the closest to have in any sort of Oscar category, really.
Yeah,
and I can think of.
Yeah, and this is a movie that paved the way for more horrors to be more widely accepted.
Yeah.
It was such a smack in the face. It was really this movie shocked the world.
Oh, I mean, it was a phenomenon when it came out.
Yeah, it was. And speaking of phenomenons, we've got a new quiz called Save Me, and that's become a phenomenon this season.
That sounds like we set this up perfectly for you then.
It does, but I genuinely that was genuinely off the cuff. I'm really pleased with that. That's the best bit of podcasting I've ever done. The Save Me leaderboard at the moment is me and Gareth tied in third with 100 points. You've got Vicky and Jason with 110 points. And then you've got Lisa with 120 points. So you need to get 12 questions correct to tie first, or 13 to take the lead. Mark of MW Horror Reviews, are you ready to play Save Me?
No.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Are you going to play Save Me?
I will, yeah. But just remember, I've been nice to you lately. I did nice to you on your last attempt.
You did.
I gave you the easy questions early.
Yeah, and I've got some easy questions for you. But if you cast your mind back, I did make the mistake of I got your question wrong. It was your question that put me out.
Was it?
Yeah,
no, you got my question right.
Yeah, no. Your question was the. Oh no, was yours the Children of the Corn question?
No. You see, that was Gareth from Video
Gareth,
Tasties.
was it?
He's the one you need to blame. But now you've already written my questions, thinking that I put you out as well, haven't you?
I might have to tone them down a little bit as we go through. So here is Save Me.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
Here's Johnny.
What's your favorite scary movie?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Groovy.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
It's all for you.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
A census taker once tried to test me.
Get out! Get out! Oh, shit. What? He's gone.
So the rules of Save Me, I'm pretty sure you've all got it by now. It's 15 multiple choice questions. There are 2 safe points, which is 5 and question 10. If you were to go on to question 7 and get that wrong, you would drop down to question 5. 10 points per question. And the idea is to get as far as you can, and you can walk away at any time. You get 3 Save Me's to help along the way. So your Save Me's today, Mark, are you have got Double Down, which I will take away 2 incorrect answers. You've got Easier Question, Please, and I will give you an easier question. And then you've got a Save Me that's kind of not a Save Me. So your final Save Me is you can take double points for a question.
See, that's a bit shit, because what if I get to like question 13 and I really need a bailout, and all I'm going to get is double points for it?
Well, I would probably suggest using your double points early on.
So already I'm starting off with a handicap. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, you're welcome. Here is Save Me. Question number 1. What year was The Exorcist released? 1973, 1974, 1975, or 1976?
The whole way we've been through this whole review, I've been 1973 or 1974.
No.
Really?
Are you okay? So it's 1973, 74, 75, or 76?
1974, final answer.
Really? Are you sure you don't want to use anything on it?
1973.
You're going with 73. Okay, I may have gifted you that. That's 10 points. Fucking hell.
Mate, this is not a good fucking start, is it?
No. I
think I even said numerous times throughout this review as well, 1974, and you just nodded your head politely as if I was right.
No, I was nodding my head politely thinking you were taking the piss.
Yeah, clearly I wasn't.
Okay, well, on the upside, you've got the 10 points for it, even if I did kind of gift them to you. I don't think anyone would begrudge me giving you help on the first question. Question number 2. What do Jason Voorhees and Leprechaun have in common? They both like long, loving walks. They are both afraid of spiders. They have both been to space, or they are both raving alcoholics.
They have both been to space.
They have both been to space, so that's 10 points. That's 20 points you're on now. Question number 3. Kevin Bacon has been in numerous horror movies. Which was his first? Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Friday the 13th.
It was. That's 30 points. Question number 4. Who plays the sheriff in the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Ali Emery, Gunnar Hansen, Mike Vogel, or Jonathan Tucker?
Ali Emery.
It is Ali Emery. Question number 5. So you're flying through. You get this one right, and you are at your first safe point. In Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, I know you're a big Rob Zombie fanboy. Who plays Sheriff Lee Brackett? Malcolm McDowell, Brad Dorff, Tyler Main, or William Forsythe?
The man, Brad Dorff.
It is Brad Dorff. So that's 50 points, and you're now safe. So whatever happens, you're going to walk away with at least 50 points.
This almost ended very badly for me very early on. I'm very grateful to be at this point.
You've still got all 3 Save Me's as well. So don't forget, you've got your double points. You've got all of them. They're going to start getting a little bit harder now, which worries me as you struggle with question 1.
I'm not very good with dates. That's one thing I'm not good with is dates.
You're not going to like this question then. No, I'm kidding. What car famously makes an appearance in most of Sam Raimi's movies? Is it an Oldsmobile Tornado, an Oldsmobile Cutlass, an Oldsmobile Delta 88, or an Oldsmobile 442?
I know the car. I can see it. I can see the car.
I'll give you a clue. It's an Oldsmobile.
Yellow, does that help?
Don't forget, you've got the options to go for easier question, double down. You've got double points, but I'm guessing you're not going to use that on a question you're not sure on.
I'm thinking 3.
You're thinking
that really?
Which is the Oldsmobile Delta 88?
Yeah.
Yeah? You're going to go with that?
It's just some. Because he uses it in everything. He uses it in everything, and I'm just thinking now. I can vision. I know the car. I can see it. You asked me to draw it for you. I could draw you a perfect picture. It'd look identical. You're asking me the name of it.
Yeah, I mean, even to the point he used this in the Spider-Man trilogy, and he's already confirmed in a tweet that this is going to be in the new Doctor Strange movie.
Look it. I'm here to win it.
Yeah, you're going to go with C, the Oldsmobile Delta 88.
Yeah, lock it in.
Okay, it's correct. 60 points.
Yay.
Question number 7, and this is about a lady that you really like. Which of these horror movies does not star Jamie Lee Curtis? Prom Night, Terror Train, Virus, or Shocker?
Shocker.
It is Shocker. 70 points. Question number 8. You're doing really well. You've still got all three save me's intact as well. Don't forget your double points.
Yeah, or what? The one that's absolutely fucking pointless.
Well, it's not, because if you know the answer, you're going to be 10 points further ahead. So you could be at question 11. You could use it now, and you've gained an extra 10 points. You're effectively a question ahead.
No, you've already started me off with one leg, so I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to get to question 15, and I'm going to use it on question 15, and I'm going to be unbeatable for the rest of the season.
Question number 8. In the movie Seed of Chucky, which rapper appears? Is it Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Method Man, or Redman?
Oh, fuck. I immediately, in my mind, as soon as you asked that question, said Method Man. Don't lock that in, because I know that's incorrect. It's Redman.
Yeah? You going to go with Redman?
Yeah.
That's correct. It's 80 points. Question number 9, and we're getting into some really hard territory now. So, in the movie Get Out, what does Chris do not to get hypnotised? Does he pick cotton out of the chair, count the dots on the wall, watch the raindrops trickle down the window, or think of going home?
I'm going to use my save me.
Which
I'm
one?
going to use my double save me.
So the one that takes away 2 wrong answers.
No, the one that doubles up my points.
The one that doubles your points. Okay, so you're using double points. So if you get this right, you're going to get 20 points on it, which will put you on 100 points. If you get this wrong, you drop back to 50.
And I think, don't know why I've done this, because I don't actually know the answer. But I know from recollection of the film, he's strapped to the chair. Can't imagine it's always going to be rainy every time he's in the chair, because he's in it in multiple situations, so he wouldn't be counting the rain. What dots would he be counting? I think he's picking cotton from the chair.
Is that what you're going to go with?
Yeah.
Okay. You are on 100 points.
Yay! Does that count as a save me, or does that just count as my point? Is that a save point, sorry?
No, that's not a save point. So question 10 you're on now. So if you get this correct, this will be your save point. As I know, you're not a huge fan of Jordan Peele. We're going to stick with Jordan Peele movies.
That's not fair.
And I'm going to ask you, what numbers keep appearing in Us? Is it 1313, 1111, 99, or 77?
1111.
It is 11 and 11, so that's 110 points, and you are now safe, and you've got 2 save me's left and only 5 questions to go.
I don't know why I was so rapid on that as well, because I didn't know the answer. I just know that 1111 is a superstitious number, so I would just assume that would be the one to go for.
So that was a punt?
That was a complete guess.
Fucking hell. So you've got 2 save me's. Also, you can take a guess at this because it won't make any difference. You'll still be on 110 points. Which movie from 1972 and was remade in 2009 is about murderers who unknowingly seek refuge with the parents of their victims? Is it Salem's Lot, Last House on the Left, The Grudge, or The Amityville Horror?
Remake. Recent remakes, 2000 remakes. No Salem's Lot. Might be Salem's Lot, I don't think it's Salem's Lot. I know there's a Last House on the Left.
You've still got your save
that correlates most with the story. We go, they attack the daughter, they seek refuge. The parents then attack the Last House on the Left. Final answer.
It is. So that puts you now on 120 points with 4 questions to go and still 2 save me's intact. These last 4 questions are incredibly hard.
Let me get another beer then, because I'm in the zone now. Let's do it.
Right.
So I've got 2 save me's left. And I've got 4 questions to go.
Yeah.
And who's in front of me now? Just Lisa.
Yeah, just Lisa. So if you get this one right, you're tying with Lisa.
If I get it wrong, I'm in front of you and Gareth.
Yeah, you will be, because you'll drop back down to question 10, but you used your double points, which you've got 110.
I knew that's why I used it earlier on before we got to question 10.
Question number 12. And this question actually comes from Lisa, which I think is quite poetic. What was the working title of Hellraiser from 1987? Was it Sadomasochistics from Beyond the Grave, Pinhead, The Hellbound Heart, or The Cenobites?
Is this a trick question?
No. One of those was actually the working title for Hellraiser.
Because I know the title of the book is Hellbound Heart.
It is. You've still got
the working title for the film, or is it a trick question? And is it going to be the ridiculously one you said first?
What? Sadomasochistics from Beyond the Grave?
Yeah.
You've still got 2 save me, so you could always take away two incorrect answers.
Or no, because you're a bad man, so all you leave me with is Hellbound Heart and question 8. So that's completely pointless to me now.
Or you can jump away from it completely. You can go for the easier question.
Can you tell me what the easier question's relating to?
It relates to you.
Something's telling me it's Hellbound Heart, but I know that's the book, and that's why I'm thinking that is the obvious guess. And at this stage in the quiz, is the obvious guess the right guess? What were the other 2?
So you had Sadomasochistics from Beyond the Grave, Pinhead, The Hellbound Heart, or The Cenobites?
I use the easier question. So what happens if I use the easier question? Does that still, if I get that question right, does that then put me further forward?
Yeah. So
still proceed as a normal question.
The easier question replaces that question.
Well, I'll replace the question.
You're going to replace the question. Do you want the answer to that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the working title for Hellraiser 1987 was Sadomasochistics from Beyond the Grave.
I was going to pick that as well. I knew I should have just gone with it.
So your easier question that relates to you and actually ties back to a conversation you and me had at the end of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode. Mark, what is your Instagram handle? Is it at MW Horror Reviews? Is it at M_W_horror reviews? Is it at MW_horror reviews? Or is it at MW_horror_ reviews? I think it's insane you don't know your own Instagram handle.
Well, the funny thing is, my Instagram name was a temp name when I first set up the page. Like, I never intended for that to stick. I just couldn't decide on what I was trying to be creative. I'm like, oh, that's something real cool. I was like, well, I'll just stick it with MW for now, obviously being my initials, and horror reviews being what I was doing, and then I'll work in title kind of thing. And it just sort of stuck, and now I'm at the quiz and I'm fucked.
So your options were, so A is MW Horror Reviews, all in one word. Do you think it's that?
No, I know there's an underscore in there somewhere.
Okay, so we'll take that one out. You don't think it's that. So is it M? Oh, sorry. Is it M, then an underscore, then W, then another underscore, horror reviews?
No, MW is 1.
MW is 1. So that leaves you with the bottom 2 then. So you've got MW underscore horror reviews, all as one word, or you've got MW underscore horror underscore reviews. And you've still got your other saver. You can take away 2 of the wrong answers.
I think there's 2 underscores in it. I think I'm gonna go with MW underscore reviews. MW underscore horror underscore reviews.
That is correct. You're on 130 points. I love the fact that you struggled to do your own Instagram handle as a question.
Did I, or was I just bigging my own page up on the show?
Was that just to get your name said a million times?
We're just spreading it out there a little bit.
You are now 3 questions away, and you've got 1 save left.
Oh, 130 points though.
You're on 130 points, so don't forget you can always walk away. Question 13. What century is The Witch set? The 20th century, the 19th century, the 18th century, or the 17th century?
I've never seen The Witch either. It was in the poll for this, and I was hoping it was going to get picked. Can I have a simplify, please?
You can. So your simplify leaves you with the 20th century or the 17th century.
I don't think it's the 20th century. 17th century then.
It is the 17th century. You're on 140 points. You have 2 questions to go and no save needs remaining. So question number 14. How many human centipede movies are there? 1, 2, 3 or 4?
3, final answer.
Oh shit, went straight in really quick. You are on 150 points and you are on the final question.
I'm more concerned for myself that I've actually seen all 3 of those films.
I'm concerned if you've seen all 3. I'm going to just pause for a second, just taking the fact of how gobsmacked I am that you've got this far. You've had some really fucking hard questions.
Yeah, you haven't been fair to me, to be honest with you.
How can you say I've not been fair to you? You've got 150 points and you're on the final question. It's not like you've struggled.
Yeah, to be fair. But I said from the start, I was going all the way.
So this question, you're either going to take a guess at it and get it right and set a maximum score, which everyone can then try and match, or you're going to get it wrong and you're going to drop down to 110 points.
Yeah.
Or you're going to walk
already.
away.
I'm regretting that though, because I've already set it in stone that that's what I was going to do and that's what I came here to do. And I've got a feeling you're going to want to watch me fail, and this is why this question is going to be super hard.
Well, of course, it's going to be super hard. It's the last question. So this question is question 15, final question of the quiz. What caused the budget for The Exorcist 2 to be increased from $9 million to $14 million? Was it A, they were refused filming permissions at every location and had to recreate all the locations on a studio backlot? They suffered long delays in shooting due to constant rewrites of the script. The original cut was over 3 hours long and was impossible to edit down, so they had to reshoot the final third of the movie. Or, finally, the studio wanted to advertise the movie more than any other movie before, trading on the back of the success of The Exorcist, and paid for numerous TV spots and radio ads, large billboards on a global scale.
I've never seen any of the sequels to this film. I don't even know much about the sequels to any of these films either. I can imagine, based off the success of the first, that they would want this to be a hit. So for me, my initial reaction would be to go with the advertising.
There's no shame in walking away.
No, there is massive amounts of shame in walking away.
So you've got, they were refused filming positions. They were they weren't allowed to get in certain positions while filming. They were refused filming permission. Every location had to recreate all the locations on a studio backlot. They suffered long delays in shooting due to constant rewrites and changes to the script. The original cut was over 3 hours long and impossible to edit down. And to keep continuity, they had to reshoot the last third of the movie. The studio wanted to advertise the movie more than any movie before it and paid for numerous TV spots, radio ads, and large billboards on a global scale.
And then what was number 2?
Number 2 was they suffered long delays in shooting due to constant rewrites of the script.
So the only way that would incur costs is people on standby, sets on standby, things on standby. Would that send it over that much? And what was A?
A was they were refused filming permission at every location and had to recreate all locations on a studio backlot.
Don't think it was that.
I love the fact you keep looking at me for hints.
Come on, man. I don't think it was that.
As I said, there's no shame in walking away. If you don't know it, there's no need to take a punt at it if you don't want to.
Can't do that. I wish I'd never said I was going all the way before, because I would quite comfortably walk away now, knowing that I was on 150 point maximum score.
You're on a maximum score, so the only way anyone could catch you, they could tie with you if they went through and got every question right. The only way they would beat you is if there would be a double point save me.
Which I thought was absolutely fucking stupid and irrelevant until this point now.
And now it's not irrelevant, because for someone to beat you, they actually need that save me.
It's pivotal for them to...
And the save me's change every week, so it's definitely not happening next week. But it might happen next week, it depends.
How lazy you get. No, I said I'm going all the way, so I'm going all the way. I need to think. I'm at C at the minute. Read me question B again.
B was they suffered long delays in shooting due to constant rewrites of the script.
Kind of ties into what I'm thinking with C as well, though. C, final answer.
Which one?
C.
C, final answer.
Game over!
Motherfucker, no way. What was it?
The answer was they were refused filming permissions at every location, including the original house, because of the stigma that come with the movie. They had to recreate everything, literally every location. No one would let them film because of how much stigma came with the first movie. So everything was recreated on a studio backlot.
That's incredible. Well, it was fun. I said I was going to go all the way. I tried my best.
And you're on 110 points. So you're tied in second place with Vicky and Jason. So it's not a shabby performance.
I enjoyed it. I feel I did very well.
You've done incredibly well. And that last question is incredibly hard.
Yeah. You have to be a serious Exorcist 2 fan to know that, I think.
Yeah.
I tried the best I possibly could with deductions and theories and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and to be fair, you probably went the way I would have gone. I think that's the way I would have gone with it. So yeah, I think you've done really well. And that was this week's Save Me. Marc of MW Horror Reviews, 110 points. Joint second place. Right, that ties quite nicely into recommended account of the week. So the person who would have known the answer to this is actually my recommended account of the week, and that is the Exorcist 101. This is an Exorcist fan account. If you love the Exorcist in any way, shape or form, give them a follow. Facts, pictures, video, memes. Literally, it's one of, if not the best Exorcist fan account. The amount of information on probably their last 5 posts is probably more information than we've given you in this entire podcast. The account's amazing. So that's the Exorcist 101, and they're on Instagram.
Don't live to regret it like I did.
You flung your heights of heaven to the depths of hell! Fuck him! Begone! Fuck him, Garrus! From this creature of God!
Into our final thoughts. For me, The Exorcist is a classic horror movie that paved the way for many other movies in a genre that I love, possession. It paved the way for all of them. So movies like The Devil Inside and The Rite and The Possession of Hannah Grace, and even movies like Constantine. Without The Exorcist, none of those movies would have the interest around them or would have been anywhere near as successful. That being said, it has dated. There's no getting around that. It's still an excellent film, but it's dated from what it was when it was originally made. I'm really excited to see this revamped in 2023. Blumhouse have taken it. They're doing a trilogy, which I'm not fully on board with, but I'll be interested to see what they do with it. And I'm excited to see that it's going to be reborn for a whole new generation of horror fans. And I'm a fan of reboots because, as wonderful as movies from the 70s and 80s are, if you make them now, younger generations will watch them, and that will keep that franchise going. And it will make them go back and watch the originals and see the source material that it all come from. So I'm going to score the movie. For the movie itself, I wrote an 8 out of 10, and in doing this review, I'm actually going to change it, and I'm going to give it a 9. A lot of the faults I find with it are purely because it's dated. Story wise, it's perfect. It's visually, it falls down for me. And for Fear, it's a 7 out of 10 for me. Mark, what are your final thoughts and what are your scores for this?
I'm very, very surprised by this film. Like, there is a lot of films that come out in this era, this decade, even the 80s, things that I haven't seen, that I've uncovered, that I've encountered throughout doing my review page, that I kind of wish I had have seen at the time of release, because I feel like they have heavily suffered with age. Evil Dead 2, for example, I feel like had seen that when it first came out, blown my mind, that would have been a 10 out of 10. This isn't one of them. I watched this for the first time now in 2021, and I thought it was an absolute masterpiece. I think it deserves all of the praise, all of the recognition and fan support that it gets, because I genuinely felt from start to finish it was such a well-crafted story, well-crafted film, directed, produced, practically effects-wise. It was phenomenal for me. Acting, incredible. I don't think it's dated. Don't want to see a remake of it. And I'm a guy who champions remakes and says the more media, the better. At the end of the day, the original's not going to go anywhere. However, I don't like possession films. Don't usually find myself drawn to watching possession films, or even finding any interest in stuff such as the exorcism of Emily Rose and so on. So like it's very CGI heavy and it's something that I think this film doesn't require and doesn't deserve. And I'm not excited for what they're going to do with it. I'm pleased I've seen it. I wish I'd have seen it sooner. And if you haven't, or if you think you have, but remember seeing it as a child, go back and watch it. You won't regret it. This film is outstanding. It's a 10 out of 10. I think it was overly scored for Fear early on by people on Instagram. I don't think it's a very scary film, but it's an incredibly well told film. And for that, it's a 10 out of 10.
What would you score it for Fear then?
It's a difficult one because I don't believe in it. I don't believe in the idea of it.
So for you, it's less scary than it is for someone who believes.
Of course, 100%. Yeah, I don't fall for the idea of it. I was just mesmerized by the storytelling of the film, and I think it was incredibly well handled. So I think it's a 10 out of 10 for cinema quality, 100%. But fear-wise, I would probably 4, maybe 5 at best. I can imagine when this came out, this was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But by today's standards, it's lucky if it's pushing a 4 or a 5.
Okay, so what we've got then is we've got a 9.3 score as an average for the movie, and 6.6 for Fear, and I think they're fair scores. Where to watch this? So in the UK, you can stream this for free on Sky Go, or you can rent it everywhere else. In the US, you cannot stream this anywhere, but you can rent it everywhere. It's really, really available. You just got to pay for it. It's going to cost you £4 $4.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, definitely worth every penny. Before we talk about next week, we've got 2 quick questions to answer. I know for the people listening to this, has been a very long Exorcist. It's been a very long Exorcist, a very long episode, but I think The Exorcist warranted this level of assessment. It definitely warranted us to give it the full once over. So we've had a couple of questions in from the listeners. The first one's coming from a Swedish horror nerd, who's a horror YouTuber and podcaster. And they asked us, what do you do for a living? Well, I'll answer it if you want. Me and Mark both work in construction of one form or another. Mark's a carpenter. Would you call you a carpenter?
Well, I'm not Jesus, but I am a joiner. I work with wood. I'm a carpenter of sorts.
So Mark's as religious as you can get. Mark is Jesus without the hair, and I work in electrical. So we're both in construction. And the second question coming for one for the Roadmap, who is a true crime podcast, and they asked, "Do you share your birthday with anyone famous?" I'm going to go first. I share mine with 3 famous people who I believe are relatively relevant. So Tom Cruise, who horror movie wise is Interview with the Vampire and The Others, and Patrick Wilson from The Conjuring and Insidious. And finally, Sebastian Vettel, who's an F1 driver and to my knowledge has not done any horror movies.
No, unless we have a serious crash on a Sunday, then.
Well, yeah, there is that. How about you, Mark? Any famous celebrity birthdays on the same day?
Ironically enough, yes. For my birthday, which is 5th of October, we have the legendary Donald Pleasance.
Oh, wow.
Yes, 5th of October, Donald Pleasance, which is ironic for me, really, being such a big Halloween fanatic, that I would have the luxury of sharing the same birthday as him.
Yeah, you share the same birthday as him, and it turns out you're Jesus. So
today's a good day.
What a bombshell! You also share your birthday with Jesse Eisenberg from The Village and from Zombieland. Brian Johnson, the lead singer of AC/DC, one of my favourite bands, and Guy Pearce from Alien Covenant, The Road, and Prometheus. There was one more thing I wanted to see who shared birthdays with, and that is the show. So the birthday of the show is the 24th of March. That was our very first episode. The show shares its birthday with so much horror. I've just boiled it down to 4, but there's lots. Jessica Chastain from It and Mama. We've got Alison Hannigan from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and an Angel. That's one that Horror Review Girl is going to be screaming at the podcast now. Then we've got Finn Jones, who was in the Leatherface remake. And finally, Mark Calloway, who is better known as The Undertaker from wrestling. He's also been in Suburban Commando and recently on Netflix, the interactive horror game Escape the Undertaker.
Which everyone has clearly seen because it's a phenomenon.
My kids are into wrestling. It's actually not bad. It's really tacky and cheesy, but you get to decide what the characters do. So it pops up on Netflix whether they go left or whether they go right, and you choose it. It's good fun. If you get it wrong, you die. And it's like a game, but a film at the same time. It's quite clever. Anyway, that's enough about birthdays. Thank you very much for both of you who sent in questions. Next week. So next week is Serious Killers Week. I'm going to be joined by Josh from A Nightmare on Woodsboro Lake. Next week is going to be very, very interesting. Mark, thank you so much for coming back on and making the quiz incredibly entertaining.
You're more than welcome. I wish I'd have completed it, but
you wish
for that, Tom. Cheers, Tom.
Yeah, you wish you hadn't told everyone you were going the whole way because you'd have walked off.
I would have 100% walked away with 150 points.
Before we go, I'm going to say something now. Mark is an incredible guy. He's a close friend now. We've become close friends through the show and through talking on Instagram. Mark's account, which is at MW_horror_reviews, is fantastic. He is an incredible movie critic. A lot of work goes into his reviews. and he really, really, really does love horror. So please, please, please go and give him a follow. Send him a message, comment on his post. He will respond to you. Even if you send him a message going, you are completely wrong, he won't just go, fuck you. He will have a conversation with you and talk about it. And he's changed my mind on some movies as well. So please give him a follow. Thank you so much for listening to this extended episode of the You Run podcast. Welcome back to the new year. Welcome to 2022. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much for having me once again, Scott. Pleasure as always.
Well, I guess we'll catch you all next week. See you later.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Paris, you faithless swine.
Come on to me. The Lord be with you.
Put your hands up.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget, leave us a review wherever you can and recommend us to a friend. This is the You Run podcast because you run and control the show. To get involved, head over to our website, yourunpodcast.com, where you can record us a voicemail. That voicemail I will play on the air. Use that to say whatever you want. Are we good? Are we bad? Do you want a movie review? It's up to you. This is your show. Not only that, you can get involved on all of our social medias. We're at You Run Podcast pretty much everywhere. Join in the 3-word review. Give us a fact. Ask us a question anytime, whatever it is. This is your show. This is the You Run Podcast.
You want to die tonight?